Welcome to the Horizen Quarterly Update live stream. We have many updates for you, and we'll be answering the most popular questions at the end of the presentation. If you want to ask a question or upvote questions, go to menti.com and type in the code listed at the bottom of the slides. My name is Rolf Versluis. I'm a co-founder of Horizen, and I'm here to introduce your presenter. This quarter, we had the most significant product release in our 3.5 years of existence, so stay tuned for more details. Here with your October 2020 Horizen Quarterly Update is Horizen co-founder and team lead, Rob Viglione.
Thank you, Rolf. And it does feel a little weird talking about something we released in July because it feels like forever ago because so much has been going on with the project. But this is important on this quarterly live stream to take a step back and just survey what we've done over the last 3 months so you can see just the enormous volume of work and hopefully you can get a sense for how important it is as we're going forward. So next slide, please. This is the big picture agenda, what's going on, what you're going to hear in this presentation. We'll kick it off as usual with our community highlights. Then we'll get into the heavy hitting engineering work that's been going on, engineering product. Then we'll switch it over to business development, development projects in particular. You'll hear about the node system. Allan's gonna go through recent updates, in particular some staking updates that are very important. We'll hand it over to Jonathan and Lucy on marketing, with marketing growth, and then we'll go into the regional updates. Next slide, please. And here's the fun part where we get to talk about 3 community stars. Every live stream we have to pick 3, even though there are many others, but these were 3 cool ones. And by cool, there are 2 categories here. One is Michael and Francis have been just very prolific on social media, interacting with the community, interacting with us on the team, and just helping spark significant and quite honestly, very fun conversation in the community, in particular on Telegram. So this is also a call to come join that conversation. It takes place in Telegram or on Discord all the time and be part of it. Help steer the conversation for the community and steer the conversation and direction of where the project goes. Xavier, along with Pontus, did an awesome developer interview with Manon, I believe a couple weeks ago, and it's available on YouTube. It's fantastic. We broadcast it on our social media. Highly recommend checking it out. It's just a fun interview, but also just extremely insightful about these guys from a developer's perspective, actually talking about their experiences working with the project, everything from HDE to deploying a sidechain. Next slide, please. Very proud to announce we have 3 new hires here. So 2 of them are on the web developer side. We have Tuan and Wang join us, both with IT and engineering backgrounds. Tuan has been working as a web developer for 4 years, so he has a good amount of experience. And what I love about his description of his own background is his lifelong ambition is to build products that enlarge people's life and take a leap of development knowledge. So you can see just both the social ambition here to make the world a better place, but also that intellectual curiosity to work on a very innovative and cutting edge project. Wang, also with engineering IT background, graduate from Hanoi University of Science and Technology, and passionate about programming, wants to empower people through his work. So again, the theme here, empowering people through what we're doing, has very much to the core message and mission of what we're trying to do as a project. And Vladimir comes with us with just a wealth of experience, a computer engineering degree, and in particular focused on hardware-oriented software and information security, 2 extremely important things for us. And one in particular you'll see as we go forward with Zendoo and some of the potential hardware optimizations that are going to come with generating Snarks certificates. More to come on that, but these are 3 awesome new hires to bring onto the team and bring into the project to make a difference. Next slide, please. All right, so we have a very ambitious, extensive roadmap, and it's often just important to take a step, pause, see what's going on, see what we've been doing. And here we break it up by quarter. There's been a lot of work over the year. Q3 focused on sidechain beta, the big deal, and we're going to have Alberto come on and talk in detail about Zendoo and what we delivered in July. It is, like Rolf said, the most significant software delivery that we've ever done as a project. And we've been working on it for a couple of years. And it's the first part of what's going to culminate in a truly revolutionary blockchain system. And we'll get into some of those details when Alberto joins. But a lot of the tasks that you see here on the 2020 roadmap for the rest of the year, things that we accomplished in Q3 and things that we're doing in Q4 are related to Zendoo and related to the sidechain technology because it is such a big deal. And we have a lot of supporting work that's been going into this. Everything from documentation, which has already been delivered in its first phase, but it's in constant maturity. It's just a project that will always be ongoing. And we realize documentation is never done. So we're going to continue working on that. And not only do we want to deliver great software, but we also want people to have the knowledge to actually use it. So we're also generating a ton of educational content, everything from a very important live webinar that Alberto, Alexander, and the team put together so that they can actually walk through developers the process of modifying and customizing logic in the Zendoo SDK. So that was very important. It's now available on demand, but Lucy will get into that. And then a bunch of other stuff supporting that, other how-tos, tutorials, documentation. Rolf's been doing some fantastic voiceovers. He has the perfect voice for doing these. And we're going deeper still. So now we're putting together the actual model for incentivizing, or incentive model for how you can use micropayments, Zen, obviously, to incentivize various actors in a decentralized ecosystem that all have to coordinate their activities together. And Zendoo, in the way that we do the sidechain system in a totally decentralized way, requires this type of sophisticated thinking of how you're going to automate these types of incentives so that in the end, on the margin, however you want to think of it, resources, people are being compensated for the work that they're putting into it. And there's a whole bunch of different type of work that's going to go into making the sidechain system successful. Everything from forging blocks, aggregating transactions, aggregating proofs, generating proof certificates. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, passing certificates back to the main chain, miners doing their normal thing that they do on the Horizen main chain today, and making sure that every layer of this process actually gets rewarded in a way that, at a minimum, rewards people on the margin for their contribution. But we need to make sure that the system can operate fully, decentralized, and autonomously, or else it's just not going to work. So the level of thinking that's gone into this is going to be presented to the community in a technical white paper that we published in Q4. I've already looked at the draft. It looks fantastic. And that's just really kind of foundational work that's now informing the development. And Alberto is going to talk into more details about the remaining development tasks to get Zendoo from the parallel testnet that it's on today to the primary testnet for the ecosystem, and then ultimately to the mainnet. There's a lot of work going into it, but the team has done a fantastic job architecting it, testing a variety of different elements that need to go into it. Things like performance testing on a Snarks circuit, not easy. Really can't wait to release performance results, but Alberto maybe can give a little bit of a teaser on that. We don't have them for you here, but we're working on things like that to ensure the system. In parallel to this, we've also been incorporating findings from a third-party audit into the main code base, and these code changes have been done, integrated, or in testing, and hopefully we can get out with the next Zendoo release. So very excited for that, constantly maturing the core technology because security and functionality is so important for us. Then there's a whole bunch of work that you can see in Q4 that I'm going to wait for Alberto to really go into detail, but it does involve a couple of main strands of activities. One is maturing Zendoo to get it to the mainnet, and there's still, again, a lot of work that goes into that. You can get a flavor for what the complex engineering that goes into it with the task descriptions. But then there's also going beyond that of getting engineers and getting developers into our ecosystem, so pulling them into the ecosystem, and then helping them curate opportunities for them to start becoming useful and contributing to the ecosystem, but contributing to the ecosystem today, because we don't want to just always be focusing on the future. We want to have a balance of things that we're doing today with the other extremely important things that we're building for the future. And I think we're striking a very nice balance with things like HDE, the Horizen Developer Environment, and the Horizen Early Adopter Program Heap. And we're going to go into all of these details. And also, Allan's going to talk about changes to the tracking and node payment system, which again is at the heart of our ecosystem, getting fund flows to keep our infrastructure live and running. Next slide, please. Okay, Zendoo is the big deal, and this is why we're making it a big deal in this quarterly live stream. And Alberto is going to come join me here, and we're going to talk about what this thing is. We've had a lot of material already released on it, everything from white papers, to blog posts, to videos, to actual tutorials, webinars. There's been a lot of conversation around Zendoo thus far. This is our first time presenting it to you here, the community, on a quarterly live stream. So we're going to go back and we're going to get to basics of what this thing is exactly and why it's so important. So Alberto, if you would like to join me here, this would be great to have you on.
Yeah, sure, Rob. And yeah, it seems a lot of time ago, July, yeah? And a lot of things happened after that. But okay, what was Zendoo beta release and what was included in there? So, okay, let's first split in two parts the Zendoo beta release: the main chain side and the SDK side. So on the main chain side, we deployed all the changes that were needed for allowing a user, for example, to declare a new sidechain in main chain. So, and what do we mean for declaring? Declaring what are the parameters that are necessary for a main chain to interact with the sidechain. And then also on the main chain side, we allowed a user to send some money to the sidechain by performing a specific transaction that we introduced that, or better, a specific output that we call a forward transfer. So with this release, a user had the possibility to send some coins to sidechain. But moreover, we introduced also all the logics that was necessary to receive from the sidechain the certificates that regularly allow user to withdraw coins from the sidechain itself. So we have this life of the sidechain that is divided in epochs. So we can think about some main chain blocks, and every epoch and every end blocks, the sidechain communicate to the main chain a certificate that contains the backward transfers that the user asked for in the sidechain. So this is a way for the sidechain to communicate back to the main chain what are the withdrawals that happened there. But one key point about the certificate is that is how main chain validate the correctness of the certificate, because one of the key elements of Zendoo is that the main chain doesn't know any rule of the sidechain. So you can construct any kind of sidechain without having the main chain knowing it. And also, we don't require any trusted party for validating or certifying the certificate. So this is a key element. This is a big differentiator from many other models that are out there. Why? Because in reality, we believe that a real blockchain to be a true blockchain should be decentralized. And so if you don't have a way for validating this transfer between the sidechain and the main chain in a decentralized way, even if you built your sidechain in a completely decentralized way, but then after, if you have a trusted party validating the transfers, I mean, you know, it seems totally useless.
So Alberto, you're actually as decentralized as your most centralized link, right? So
absolutely. And so, and for making it happen, we make use of Snarks. So as the Zendoo paper describes, we accept certificates validating them using Snarks. So the Zendoo beta release on the main chain side already implemented the verification of the certificate by verifying the proof that was, let me say, passed along with the certificate itself, and validated with using the verification key, the Snark verification key that was associated to the sidechain on the sidechain declaration transaction that we described previously. So this is a key element that was already part of the Zendoo beta release that we had in July. So And I mean, this gives a very rough idea about what was included there. Obviously, this included many other elements that, for example, checks for the main chain to be sure that the sidechain is not transferring more coins that he received, and these kind of things are obviously included in the beta release of the main chain. But now let's switch on the sidechain side, on the SDK side. So on the SDK side, and we call it SDK, but it's in reality it's much more than just an SDK. In reality, our sidechain SDK includes a full node implementation, a full sidechain node implementation. So, including a specific consensus that is called Latus, that is a modified Ouroboros-Prowse proof-of-stake consensus to manage this two-chain interaction. I mean, and when I mean two-chain interaction is main chain and sidechain interaction. So the sidechain is aware of what is happening on the main chain and react on what is happening on the main chain. And this also has implication on the consensus side. So we designed a specific consensus that is able to manage this in a very efficient way, and is based on proof of stake. So our sidechain SDK already implement all the things that are needed for having a sidechain node network running. So exchanging transactions, exchanging blocks, forging blocks, implements the basic transactions that are needed for two users to exchange coins each other. So already monitor main chain for including proof of forward transfers that happen in the main chain. So to be aware on the sidechain that a user sent some coins there. And also implement the sidechain SDK, all the needed components that are necessary for collecting the withdrawal requests in the sidechain. So a user that wants to withdraw some coins is able to perform a withdrawal request. These withdrawal requests are collected during the epoch, and at the end of the epoch, the certificate is built, all the backwards transfer are collected together, a proof is created, and later I will spend a few words about this kind of proof. And then the certificate is sent to main chain. So all this stuff, let me say, was already included in the Sidechain SDK beta release. Why I was talking about the proof? Okay, the current version of the SDK create, let me say, a simplified proof that is not, let me say, reflecting the full Latus model, because the whole Latus model implies proving the whole history of the sidechain. So having a succinct proof that everything that happened in the sidechain, starting from the beginning of the epoch up to the end of this epoch, follow the sidechain rules in a way that implicitly, if we are also verifying backward transfers, implicitly we are verifying that the backward transfers that are declared in the main chain within the certificate follow the sidechain rules without knowing the sidechain rules. And this part is, I mean, the next part, but I will not go on and, talk about things that we will cover in the next slides.
Yeah, Alberto, thank you for that detailed overview. And anyone who's interested further in this, there's a lot of material already out there, and highly encourage it. And bottom line, anytime you have any questions, you want to talk to us, we're here to answer any questions, and please do reach out. I do want to say, just big picture, why this is so important is because decentralization is required for a permissionless ecosystem. If something's centralized, that means you have to go and get permission from whoever's in charge of doing something, whether that's processing a certificate or whatever it happens to be. This system is designed so that people don't have to ask us permission to do anything. It's kind of like a public internet in a way where you can just join and then you could build your applications that are running on this network. That's the important thing. We're scaling privacy in a way that doesn't compromise security. I think it's an extremely important and exciting innovation for the industry. So Alberto, if you want to go into the details of what we've done in Q3, and then
sure.
What's going on in Q4.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, okay. Regarding Q3, some of the elements were already covered. I mean, the beta mentioned release as we just mentioned, and the SDK release. Obviously, after the release, we had subsequent improvements. I mean, related for example, fixing some issues also spotted by our community, and that was great. But also, we have been working on a demo sidechain called Lambo Registry. I mean, a very cool name,
Very cool, I agree.
But I mean, we will cover, we will go into details about the Lambo Registry later. There is a specific slide for it. Okay, another key element we have been working on is the proving system performance optimization. Okay, just a few words on this. Previously, I was mentioning that we, in the full Latus model, we are going to prove the full history. So we need to prove that each transitions respected the rules of that specific sidechain. This means in creating a lot of proofs, but also we want to have a unique proof to be provided to the main chain. So we want to have a way also for merging these proofs. So we need to have recursive proof composition, recursive Snark proof composition, and these it's really from a computational standpoint expensive. We started looking, I mean, using an MNT cycle, but we saw that it was the performances were not enough for the kind of throughput that we want to have on the sidechain. So we started working even on other proving systems, and we have been evaluating some of them, many of them, I mean, the main one, and also we started working on specific improvements even on the proving system for allowing us to increase the performances and then increasing the throughput of the sidechain. So this is one of the key elements that we are currently working on, and this is something that will go on also for the next month. But I mean, we have quite promising results for now. You will see. You will see. Always related to these, for improving the performances of the prover, we are also evaluating the usage of GPU. We have been evaluating. Now we are already developing. So to increment the prover's performances. So some operations that are very expensive and done a lot of times on the during the proving process can be run on a GPU. So, and these allows to increase the performances. We saw an interesting, let me say, increase of performances. So we are, I mean, and we will see later, but in any case, we are currently also working on the development of this. As you were mentioning before, Rob, we want to have a fully decentralized model. And this means having, if you really want to have decentralization, you have to find a way for having actors having an interest on contributing to the history of the blockchain. And so, and for doing this, you need to have a reward scheme. So you have to find a model that is balanced and that gives the possibility, the incentives for all the actors that are involved. And for example, for actors, what I mean a forger, a sidechain forger. Why a sidechain forger should issue a block? And we have to remember that in the sidechain, we don't have Coinbase. We are not creating new coins on the sidechain. We don't want to have it. I mean, if you want for your specific use case, it's fine. But the model is not based on that, just on transaction fees. So we created a full model, a full incentive schemes that provide an incentive for all the actors to contribute to the history of the blockchain, and, for example, also for creating the final proof for the ebook. So we made an analysis on this, but also a model. We created a model, and we also created a paper. So that is going to be published very soon, I think. The webinar, we also had a webinar on the Q3 where we went into details about how you can customize the SDK to build your own sidechain application. And we used the car Lambo Registry as an example, to go through it. And with the car Lambo Registry, we also made a video series where also, if you want, you can follow these videos, and you as a developer, you will know what are the steps necessary that are necessary to customize your sidechain application. And I mean, that's mainly, the main elements we have been working on Q3 so far.
It's a lot for one quarter, for sure. And on the product side, guys, we have some bullet points here for product. Most of these have their own slides, actually. So we'll talk about HDE and HEAP in their own slides later on. Allan's going to talk about the supernode staking, at least the technology aspect of that, and some other things. Like Alberto, maybe you want to say something about the Sidechain Explorer or how Sphere has been worked on to interact with the Sidechain system.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, about the Sidechain Explorer. Yeah, it's quite interesting thing because, okay, we want to have the possibility also for creating, if necessary, light clients also on the Sidechain side. So we started working on a way for having, for interfacing the Sidechain node to an Explorer. So how the Explorer, the Explorer would receive the information related to a specific sidechain. And also these should be modeled in a way that is extendable because we can have different kind of sidechains. I make an example. If we talk about the car, the Lambo Registry, we can think about having a specific Explorer for the Lambo Registry, where you can see the transfers that happened. And so you can see the list of cars that are out there. You can, for example, think about having the possibility to search for a specific car, to see who is the owner of a specific car. So, and this could be done by an Explorer, but how we are interfacing the sidechain node to the Explorer. So this is what we have been working on the Q3. It's not yet fully developed. It's something that we define the interfaces that has to be implemented for exchanging this information between the sidechain node and the Explorer. And this was just
thank you, Alberto. And then you'll see on the product side for Q4, there's a big TBD right there. And that's because we've actually just stood up a product team dedicated to actually sidechain use cases. And that they're developing a pipeline of sidechain use cases that we don't yet want to announce. Maybe not want to announce, but can't yet announce. But we have some very interesting projects there. So by the next time, or maybe even as early as the coming weeks, you'll hear more about specific projects that we're doing with other blockchain projects, other blockchain applications, other public blockchains themselves. Very exciting and very cool things, but the product team is really dedicated to that and actually getting these use cases built and out there. And as a small step in that direction, Paolo, Rosario, the team have started already extending more tokenization logic into the SDK. It's just, again, more of an example for developers and laying the groundwork for future use cases and applications that we know we're going to have. So we might as well just get diving in right now.
And so, and regarding the Q4 about the Zendoo sidechain platform, I will mention just some of the elements that we will be working on, and you will see that it's quite, it will be a quite busy Q4. Okay, okay, here we can see, for example, the seized sidechain withdrawal and the main chain backward transfer requests. And these are two interesting points. Okay, first, what they are. Okay, they are part of the Zendoo model, but these two operations that you can perform, that a user can perform on main chain, are meant to give the possibility for a user to withdraw the coins from that are sent that they are owning on the sidechain, even if the sidechain is completely maliciously controlled. So the user will have the possibility to post a transaction, to submit a transaction in main chain that, depending on the circuit, how it is developed on the sidechain side, but can allow a user to post this kind of request in the main chain that must be processed on the sidechain side to provide then a valid certificate at the end of the year. So in this way, we are committing and we are obliging the sidechain to process our request. So even if it is completely maliciously controlled, the sidechain, and so being able, for example, to censor our request for withdrawing, our main chain backward transfer request will oblige also that totally maliciously controlled sidechain to answer to this request. And so our request, if it is legitimate, so if we have the coins in the sidechain, and it's performing with our circuit, we enforce this, we will be able to force the sidechain to add a backward transfer that allows us to withdraw the coins. And this is, a key element, because even maybe if the sidechain is just started and maybe, it's not yet fully used with a big usage, even in that case, the user has a way, in any case, to withdraw his coins. And this is a big differentiator from many other models. You can even imagine other models where you have just a sort of a set of certifiers or trusted party. If you get the majority of these entities can have the full control of your coins. We are not only, obliging the sidechain to follow the rules for withdrawing them, but also we also thought about the corner case where the sidechain is fully maliciously controlled, and even in that case you will be able to withdraw your coins. So this went a little bit longer than expected, but I think it's a key point that we will be working on in terms of implementation on the main chain side in the Q4.
That was awesome. Thank you, Alberto. It just shows you the attention to detail and requirement for real security on these types of sidechains, because there's so much that could go wrong if not properly architected, designed, and meticulously built.
Correct, because it's easy to say we rely on. Could have been easier to say we can rely on honest majority there, but we understood at some point that, especially if the sidechain is just launched, you can have maybe a tiny set of actors that are, working for making it running. And so these could lead to possibilities where the majority is not fully honest. So we want to have a way for the user to be secure and sure that they can have the control of their coins, even if the sidechain is malicious control. So this was some of the key elements, even in the design phase of Zendoo.
That's awesome. And Alberto, since this is such a crazy quarter that we're racing towards the end of the year, let's go into October's priorities, because we really need to hammer, hone in on exactly what we're doing, prioritizing, and the team is just performing so well right now. So let's go into October, and
Yeah.
you can walk us through the big items.
And the first one was not
For October, it's a lot, yeah.
So, okay, we already started working on the Rosetta integration for Coinbase. So it's a Golang software that we are currently modifying and extending to be able to have it interfaced with our Zendoo. And so this is something that we have been already working on, and we will continue to work on during October. Obviously, Zendoo release preparation, we will have the new release ready in a few weeks. And this is something that, I mean, all the changes have already been completed currently. Also, the review has been completed of all the changes. And the release phase needs to be completed in the next weeks. The proving system, I mean, I spent a lot of words about this, but this is something that will be in progress also for October. And okay, SDK changes for providing full proof of valid history. What I mean, the SDK, I mean, needs to be modified for, just to make an example, if we want to have a proof for a block, we need to modify the block to contain the proof. So the code of the SDK should be modified, for example, for changing the structure of the block to include the proof. But moreover, what we need to have, we need to change, for example, how the hash of the transaction is made to make it circuit friendly. We need to call the prover from the sidechain SDK code. So the prover is something that is implemented on the Rust in Rust, sorry, using the Zendoo sidechain cryptolib. And so when it's needed to prove, for example, the transition of a transaction, this will need this. The SDK needs to call a function that is implemented on the Zendoo sidechain cryptolib. And this is something that we will be working on October. As I mentioned before, the changes for the full Zendoo support, the GPU, algorithms for improving the multi-scalar multiplications that are one of the elements that are most expensive during the proving part. And finally, the circuit implementation design. So here we have many circuits that are involved in proving the whole history of a sidechain. So as we mentioned before, the forward transfer, the sidechain to sidechain transaction, the valid block. So we need to have a proof for a valid block from the consensus perspective. And so all these kind of circuits needs to be implemented. So currently we are moving on in defining the details about how we are going to implement them. And so this is something that will go on October.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's insane amount of work for October. On the product side, besides the design partners that I mentioned but didn't really mention on the last slide in the TBD block, there's a bunch of tech research going on to see how we're going to focus, really like layer in priorities for the product team on things to do. And an example is the tokenization sidechain. So really extending Lambo Registry into being more general purpose, then adding other types of things. Like the next thing that the team is adding is the ability to stake a token and generate new tokens based on the tokens that you have staked. As just an example of something that we know people in the marketplace will want at some point for different products. So now we're just layering the logic into the SDK and really using this as both a learning experience for our own product team and just gearing up and getting ready for a bunch of different use cases. Doing things like sidechain node management. So launching a sidechain node it is not the easiest thing in the world to do to keep the sidechain, from seizing up. So the team has been working on scripts, working on the back end DevOps side of lessons learned, documentation, making sure that we make it as easy as possible for developers to really be able to focus on their applications and not so much on the infrastructure piece. And then documentation, SDK documentation is critical. it's an ongoing project for us. We're never going to stop. We're going to always be improving it, and the team's making significant strides right now. Going from zero documentation some months ago to now having the first round of documentation out was an enormous amount of effort. Each subsequent iteration of this is going to be improving the value of the documentation on the margin significantly, and I'm just very happy with the progress there. And we've mentioned already, at least alluded to, Sphere by Horizen is being upgraded and worked on for compatibility with sidechains as at least a UI option for sidechain developers. And Alberto, I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention on that. You've already talked about the Explorer piece, but anything with Sphere that maybe we've missed?
Oh yeah, I mean, regarding Sphere, is almost the same approach. We want to provide a way for developers to extend Sphere in order to provide a user interface that is customized on the specific sidechain. So again, if we go back on the car registry, on the Lambo registry, we want to have the user using a user interface Sphere that provides the list of his cars, for example, or the possibility to sell his car in an easy way. So we want to modify Sphere in a way that will allow the developer to easily customize it for introducing the UX component, logic that is specific for that sidechain. And so this is something that we will be started working on, in the next months.
Well, thank you, Alberto. And Alberto, just in general, thank you so much for joining and going through this amount of detail. I'm sure we'll have questions for you at the end. You'll probably be the only person able to answer, so please stick around. And guys, think of the hardest questions you can on the sidechain so you can try to stump Alberto.
Thank
you. The first person. Thank you. Cool. And let's move forward, guys. I know we've gone through a lot. There's so much material to cover. We really churn out an immense amount of work every quarter. The next two slides we'll quickly go through because we've already talked about them. We built the first application. It's really a sample application, not a production application called Lambo Registry. This is an ode to our crypto industry and the importance of Lamborghinis in crypto. So obviously, the first demo application we built was a Lambo Registry. Really, guys, this is not meant for you to really sell your Lambo, although we can build that for you if you want. But this is more of a demo tool for developers to understand how they can extend the SDK with your own application logic. Next slide, please. And importantly, the webinar that Alberto and Alexander and the team put together was fantastic. Please check it out if you're a developer and you have interest in taking the SDK and thinking about your own applications. This is the thing that you need to watch. So now it's available on demand. Come check it out. It's at heap.horizen.io. Next slide, please. Okay, the two important programs that we've mentioned a bunch of times, and really for the last year we've been talking about them, but now they're operational and already starting to kick butt, but really early days. The Horizen Early Adopter Program, let's be very clear about what we've delivered in July. We've delivered a beta version of the Zendoo protocol with the beta version of the Sidechain SDK. This is not production, guys. This is on a parallel testnet with migration plans to once it's sufficiently mature and once we have proving system and full Lattice implementation into it, we will be migrating from a parallel testnet to the main testnet and then to the mainnet. Given the stage of the level of maturity that we're in right now for the technology and for the SDK, we are in an early adopter phase. So this is really for developers who are friends of the project, friendly developers that are curious about what we're doing and can see the potential and want to contribute. So the early adopter program is not meant to get out there and have developers start building their own production grade applications, but to get developers to come in, check out what we're doing, and help us develop this SDK, help inform the development by deploying it, giving us lessons learned, finding bugs, fixing bugs, and just being part of the development and being part of this ecosystem. So setting expectations appropriately, but given that we have already over 1,000 developers registered with Heap, and this gives the developers the ability to contribute, participate, and just have early access to all the tools and documentation that we release to the community. So next slide, please. And going on this vein of getting developers into the ecosystem and trying to carve out specific, meaningful work for them, we've launched the Horizen Developer Environment, HDE, which is all about curating opportunities for developers to contribute today. And we have 4 tasks completed so far. We have 6 active tasks out there. So this is, again, HDE is in its own beta mode right now. Early days, we launched it so that we can start getting feedback from you, the developers, and get developers to start contributing today. And in particular, this links with HEAP, the early adopter program, in the sense that we want developers to come in. Some of the tasks are specifically related to deploying the SDK and giving us feedback on it. So for doing things like just deploying your own sidechain with the SDK and giving us feedback on how the experience was for you, you can get paid to do that. So I think this is a great bargain. Developers, come check it out. And we have other useful tasks on there, things like writing scripts and making sure that you're contributing to just the overall experience being much easier. And then also some non-sidechain related tasks. And there will be more. If we had more resources, I can tell you the first role that I would want to hire for the foundation would be a developer evangelist to curate and monitor these types of opportunities and to do code review, project management, all that kind of stuff to facilitate developers building in our ecosystem through HDE. We don't have the resources at the moment, guys. If you want us to do that, the price of Zen needs to go a little bit higher for us to expand the team. But this is something that's high on our list of what we want to do. And we released the beta because this is just so important to engage our community developers that we didn't want to wait, but it's still limited beta. And please help us by contributing. Next slide, please. Okay, the elephant in the room for anyone following this project for some time is in following Bitcoin and other Bitcoin-like projects that have a scheduled block subsidy release or release schedule. So every block that's mined, there's some Coinbase that goes to rewarding particular actors to do things like mine blocks. In our case, we also pay people to run nodes, secure and super nodes. And we also have a treasury that pays for development and pays for community building and so forth. All of these things take Coinbase rewards that have an emissions schedule. And by that, I mean every block that's mined, there's a certain amount of Zen that goes out. And just like every block that's mined, there's a certain amount of Bitcoin that goes to reward the actors in that ecosystem. In our ecosystem, we have the first scheduled block halving, which means the amount of Zen that goes into that Coinbase subsidy is being cut in half, roughly on December 1st. So thank you, Sotomayor, for putting up horizenhalving.com. You can actually monitor this real time and see where we are. It's a probabilistic thing in the sense that every block has a difficulty that should roughly equate to a certain frequency of mining every block. So we can't tell you exactly when, in terms of time and a date, when block halving will kick in, but we can tell you exactly the block that it will kick in, which is block 840,000. Now this has big implications for the ecosystem because a variety of operations are subsidized by this Coinbase, meaning we pay miners based on Coinbase, we pay people to run nodes, secure and super node operators, and the team is funded based on the treasury that has part of the Coinbase allocation. This is all being scheduled to be cut in half in terms of the Zen amount that goes into these different subsidized activities. So we have to plan accordingly. Now the system is designed so that it should adjust. There's some equilibrium adjustment that just takes place. As a simple example, if the miners have a required rate of return to mine Zen compared to other opportunities that they have in the marketplace, and node operators for acquiring Zen, staking it, and running servers have an implied required rate of return. It is heterogeneous. It's not something that's simply obtained, and it varies by different actors in the marketplace. But everyone has their own reserve price for what makes sense for them. Now, we're talking about Zen being cut in half. Now, the economic value of the Zen is based on whatever currency you convert that into to buy electricity, to mine, to set up and run servers on the infrastructure side and so forth. Now, if Zen gets cut in half, it's TBD on what sort of implication this will have in the marketplace. We don't know. One thing we do know, one fact, is that the amount of new Zen being released to the world is being cut in half. So there will be a scheduled, basically incremental supply restriction of Zen hitting the marketplace. We will not make predictions on how this will percolate into price because we really have no idea. And there are 1,000 different things that factor into the price of Zen on the marketplace. So we're not going to make a prediction, and we're just going to control what we can. And let's just make it clear, we as a team are funded by these block rewards. And if the economic value of the block rewards gets reduced, we have to commensurately reduce the operations that we can actually fund. So keep that in mind, and we're optimistic about how things are going as a project, but we have to live within the constraints of the reality in which we find ourselves. And this is the biggest upcoming factor that we have in our environment. Now, depending on where you sit as a stakeholder in this ecosystem, having is either a good or bad thing for you, and for many people it's neutral. They don't care. But for different people, you have to think about how this will impact you. Please consider it. We've been very upfront about that the supply path is public information, but not everyone internalizes all public information all the time. So this is us trying to just have this wake-up call out to you, the community, to internalize this and think about it. How does it impact what you're doing to contribute to the ecosystem? And for us, we're very attuned to this because this is how we live and breathe as a foundation and how we fund operations. So we're very cognizant of this event. And please, guys, check it out with Sotomayor's website, horizenhalving.com, and you can track it directly. Next slide, please. And we'll field any questions at the end as well. This is how we've spent money over the last quarter by department. And you can see this mapping to our priorities. So we should always be very meticulous and thoughtful about how we're spending money, in the sense that we develop a strategy that has a purpose, the thought that goes into it. We're not run by inertia, and we're always reevaluating how we're doing things. But development and developer adoption are obviously extremely important for the health of our ecosystem. Developing our technology and getting developers to come in and to develop in the ecosystem, absolutely critical. And this is where we're spending money now. So where you see engineering and where you see really the bulk of the marketing budget is going into attracting developers to come in and start building in the ecosystem. Acquiring new users to support applications is also really important for us. And any value-add integration, things like high impact exchange listings. You recently saw Whitebit was a big listing. We have some other potential listings in the pipeline. We're focusing on the most important, and we're not going to spend resources on, I'll say, second-tier integrations at this point. Next slide, please. Now, I can give you a teaser for this. Fundstrat is an equity research firm really dealing with institutional investors, wealth advisors, and pension funds. They're a Wall Street firm, and they came out of the equity research world. They've extended over the last couple of years into the crypto world, where they applied the same type of analytical framework for how they evaluate stocks. They evaluate crypto projects. So it's kind of exciting to see how they evaluated Horizen. They've actually put out currently privately to their subscribers, which you can subscribe, by the way. If you want access to the report today, you can go to Fundstrat and subscribe, and you would have access to the Horizen report. And you'll see in there a framework for how they evaluate or value Zen. We as a foundation never talk about value and price. It's not in our mandate, it's not what we do. We don't like to venture guesses about how the market should be valuing us. We focus on technology and communication and building community. But this is a very interesting report because you can see how a professional equity research firm valued us. And they used a framework that included really a range bounded by two things. One is they looked at how we compare and how our value proposition might disrupt big tech. And we talk about this kind of on the periphery, but maybe we need to hone in our messaging a little bit more. But if what we're doing is successful, we will be disrupting some big tech in the sense that we are driving privacy to the marketplace in a way that can scale and not give up on security, one that actually respects the privacy of users rather than exploiting the data that users generate. And they placed us competitively in this big tech marketplace, and they looked at, based on our users that we have and growth trajectory of all types of things like transactions, wallet downloads, users on our social platform, engagement, and a variety of different metrics. They extrapolated out some sort of comparable trajectory and how we fit into that big tech marketplace, and they derived the value. And from this, they said, Zen should be worth roughly this. Fair market value of Zen is roughly this, based on this comp range. Then they went over into the crypto marketplace and compared us to our peers in the crypto world on a similar framework, but with crypto valuations, and they had a much higher valuation. Now, I'm not going to give specific numbers. If you care about or want to see this in detail, the report is available by subscribing, and it will be made public, by the way. So right now, it's available privately to subscribers. It will soon be made public, I'm told, in a matter of weeks. So the information will be out there. But they came up with a value range that says the Zen is significantly undervalued relative to peers. Probably no surprise there to anyone who's actually been following what we're doing. And if you just listen to the sophisticated engineering that's going on that Alberto just went through with everything that we've done in Q3, 1 quarter, what we're doing in Q4, and what we're doing specifically in October, you see, compare us to other crypto projects out there, the amount in complexity and sophistication. And ultimately, it's not just about sophisticated technology, but where we're going, the path, and bringing this to a marketplace in a meaningful way that matters to the marketplace, at least to the product marketplace. That's what they use from the valuation side. And that's how they came up with their comps. And you can have full access to this if you like. I'll leave it there as a teaser, but let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, here's where I'll pass it off to Vano and to Rowan to go over the BD updates.
Thank you, Rob. Just a super quick interjection from me today. Vano's actually going to take us through this slide, but I just wanted to quickly jump in to let everybody know that I am in the process of taking a step back from my full-time role here at Horizen. And there's 2 really important points to note here. The first one is that I'm not leaving altogether. I'm going to transition into a part-time advisory type role. And the goal of that role will be to continue the management of our key relationships and also to kind of fill in a few of the missing pieces that we haven't quite achieved yet. The other really important thing to note is that by no means the BD team are being left in the lurch. And we'll be providing a lot more detailed update as to exactly how the BD team will be managed going forward over the coming weeks. But for the meantime, just want to say a huge thank you. It's been 3+ years, huge ups and huge downs, but loved absolutely every single minute of it, and very excited to see what happens next. So without any further ado, I'll pass it over to Vano to take us through the Q3 integrations and partnerships.
Thanks, Rowan. Your Scottish accent will be missed here, definitely, for our community. So in Q3, we had added 4 major integrations and partnerships. Genesis has expanded their business into institutional grade custody solutions, and they have just launched Genesis Custody, which is a US-based, fully insured, institutional grade cold, as well as hot storage service for Zen. And service has just been launched and Horizen is already supported, so that's big. With OTC, in addition to custody, this makes Genesis a single point of access for Horizen services. And this is a great integration for us because we are now supported at the top-rated institutional grade custodians. Next, Horizen and Major League Hacking teamed up to empower next generation of developers and technology leaders through digital education, workshops, and hackathons. And together we have already done, I think, six blockchain workshops, and more than 250 attendees were there, and more are planned as well. We and the MHL share a common goal to empower our communities via education, technology. So stay tuned for more workshops, and they will be announced on our social media. Then Zen has been listed at Whitebit, Rob already mentioned that, a licensed Eastern European exchange against USDT and Russian ruble peers. And Whitebit is number 42 in terms of CoinMarketCap ranking, and USDT peer has a quite a good liquidity there. This is also the first Russian ruble peer with enough liquidity to trade, so it's also notable for our Eastern European community. They support bank transfers, debit and credit cards, and other retail payment services, so it is quite an easy exchange to use. Lastly, Zen has also been listed at Exolix, a multi-currency exchange, and I think this integration will make our privacy-focused community happy because Exolix doesn't require an account. to use, and it is also fully transparent and uses fixed rate schema. With this, I pass it to Allan now for node system updates.
Thank you, Vano. I'm going to go over some of the staking on exchange features that we rolled out this past quarter. We had some requests from exchanges to have their customers be able to stake Zen and earn node rewards. This presented a couple different challenges. A couple of the significant ones were, it would have been difficult for an exchange to manage one address per node, like the way it works currently. And we had to minimize transactions to cold storage wallets. So what we did was we came up with the ability to put multiple stakes in one single Zen address. And we allowed the payouts to be paid out to up to five alternate addresses, each split with its own percentage. And in doing this, we had to come up with a way to prove ownership of the stake address. So we developed a command line utility called the stake tool that helps you to create a verification request. It creates a transaction for you, and it interfaces with the tracking servers to go through the verification process. And it basically, the verification and the proof of ownership is based upon creating a transaction out of the stake address for a specific small amount of Zen. And the server then checks that. For this process, we're still working on updating some of the guides. It's only available on supernodes, but it is also available for really any node operator running supernodes. So it's not just relegated to exchanges, and we will see exchanges starting to use this. They are working on their side of the equation, integrating it into their systems, and we'll have more updates on that at a later time. Next slide, please. The next slide we have is just the node growth in Q3. We're just kind of showing the top of the charts here. You can see that we have almost 37,000 secure nodes out there and a number of 4,200 approximately supernodes. And actually the supernodes have been growing a little bit more than the secure nodes. I'm not quite sure what that's due to. It might be profitability at the moment. I think there is also some consolidation going on. People who are taking their secure nodes and rolling them into individual supernodes. So that might show that the growth is a little bit higher on the supernode sides at this time. Next slide, please. Okay, so for Q3, we already went over the server updates, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the earning period adjustments. We've seen some drifting basically in the earning period. It's usually a set amount of blocks, but over a month's time, we usually shoot for 1 a.m. UTC, but it drifted to about 5 or 6 a.m. UTC, so we had to make some adjustments by reducing the block count for a week at a time. And we are considering for Q4 to make some automated earning period adjustments, or to even going to an earning period based on time with a variable number of blocks, rather than just saying it's always a set amount of blocks. They're just trying to keep this simpler, rather than having to go back and make adjustments from time to time. We also had some of the bug fixes that were in the build for the supernodes that had the single address staking. Those were applied to the secure node systems. We have talked a few times in the past about batched cert checks and batch challenges to help identify over-provisioned nodes that are out there that some providers might be having, or groups of nodes that are out there. But we are going to be holding that off again, because for Q4, we really need to focus on our infrastructure and some of the end-of-life modules in the tracking server software itself. So on the infrastructure side, we're setting up some new dedicated database servers. We are going to be migrating the testnet servers from one provider to the current provider where the current production environment is. We're also looking at reducing the number of supernodes. We don't need the 8 servers that are out there at this point. We'll likely collapse that or cut that down in half. Again, we're going to be going through all of our old modules. Some of these are end of life to the point where security updates might have an issue with our environment. So we're taking the time this quarter to go through and update those. I'm going to take a little bit of recoding for some of these. We are looking at scheduling payouts at a fixed time of the week. Currently, our process is it's somewhat automated. We go through, we approve payouts, we fund those payouts from the community funds, so that goes through some multi-sig addresses, and then we batch those and release them. What we're looking at is adding the ability for the tracking servers to just say, set a time, and at that point, the payments will start being released. And that might be a little bit later in the week or the next day, based on what we end up deciding would be an appropriate time to do that. We'll also have some optimizations and some bug fixes in this update. And I think that is it for me, and I'm going to pass this off to Jonathan.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So we had a big quarter for growth in general. The first one, the most noticeable difference is the transition from getzen.cash as a faucet to the Horizen Community Hub, which is basically a one-stop shop for all community type activities, which is fun, but also rewarding for everyone who participates. So we still have our rewards, we still have games, we still have giveaways, and we'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. So for a little bit more specifics, we implemented a new flow for first-time crypto users. So if you remember, the old getzen.cash faucet required you to have an address before you can make a claim for Zen. So that's great for people who know what an address is and how to make one and how to store one and save one. But it was confusing for people who are using crypto for the first time. So in order to target those types of users who we want to attract to the ecosystem, because we do want people who are new to crypto, we've changed the flow where you can make a claim for Zen without having to store an address. You can store an address later after you learn how to do that. And you can learn how to do that on the Academy or just on the internet. We also introduced a level up referral program. Basically, this is a reward for people who want to share their referral links with their friends and family and other people who they know. So basically you get rewarded for 4 tiers of referrals. Before it was just 1 tier. So this encourages people to refer more. We also integrated the game Blocks Jump, and we're looking in Q4 to integrate several more games. And in addition to more games, we're looking to create a weekly leaderboard. So instead of a direct payment of Zen for how many tokens you collect within a game, it will transition to higher rewards for fewer people, but those people will be competing for rewards on a leaderboard. So the reason we're doing that is because we find there's a lot more social interaction and engagement when there's something fun like a competition, rather than many people just playing isolated on their own phones. In terms of user growth, over this quarter, we've seen 3 to 4 times growth of daily new users. That's because of several partnerships we have, mainly one with Pipeline Marketing, which is funneling many of their users over to Horizen. We've also seen a really interesting fact is we've seen a 200% increase in users on the Horizen Community Hub who have 10 or more Zen stored in an address. So since we've started to work with these external partners, we've seen people storing or hodling Zen on a much higher scale. So that means that people are actually coming to the Horizen Community Hub and purchasing Zen so that they can get some of those sweet HODL reward bonuses, which is really cool to see. In addition to that, we see continual growth of Sphere by Horizen downloads. In the last quarterly stream, we announced that we had 100,000 downloads of Sphere by Horizen. We've seen about a 20% increase in downloads since we last talked about it. And that's it for me. I'll hand it over to Lucy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Lucy speaking on behalf of the marketing division. So happy October. As we have just concluded the Q3 with the biggest milestones and breakthroughs in the history of the project, we are leaping forward into Q4 at full steam. So first of all, let's take a look at our community growth in Q3. So next slide, please. Great. So we continue to see a steady growth in the Horizen community. So here are the charts showing social media reach growth across the board. The biggest growth is our newsletter with 32.1% increase, which is an amazing increase since we already have a large subscription list. And our Twitter has 12.7% increase, Facebook 5.5% increase, YouTube 8.6% increase, and Reddit 2.6% increase, and the LinkedIn 3.9% increase. And this brings our total community size growth to 26%. Overall, very solid and steady growth across the board. So really happy about that. Next slide, please. All right, so improvements on our online estates is just a never-ending effort. Two big changes that we made in Q3 were, number one, the domain of our official website. So we have migrated the main domain from horizen.global to horizen.io. And the second one is our GitHub repo changed its name from Zencash official to Horizen official. So these moves are some of the final steps of our rebranding journey, and then they really strengthen our brand recognition. So both migrations went really, really smoothly and did not affect our users or our website visitors, thanks to a good job, really well done by our infrastructure team. And then as we are focusing on connecting and engaging with the developer community, we have been making different changes and improvements in our communications and on our websites. So in order to make things more helpful for developers, for example, we added a drop-down navigation menu for developers, updated our early adopt program website, and then also we are in a process of making a knowledge base for our developers. So I will go into more details in my next slide. We have made a lot of updates and improvements in Q3, and we will continue to improve. So there are more to come in Q4. And one other change we made is to our weekly insider. So for those of you who are not familiar with our weekly insider, it is a public call that we host every week when we give the latest updates live on both Discord and YouTube. So each weekly insider includes an AMA between the listeners and the leadership of the project. So we have been hosting the weekly insider live, I think for a year now. So based on the feedback that we received, we have decided to move our Thursday weekly insider to Mondays. And then the time remained the same. So again, this is a part of our constant improvement in our ways to keep communications open and more effective. Next slide, please. Okay, so we covered the major Zendoo deliveries that we had, and we have this amazing technology platform and tools developers can use to build their own blockchains and decentralized applications. So now we also want to make sure that we provide all the necessary support and knowledge to enable developers to start building on Horizen right away. So there are some of the things that, here are some of the things that we are doing to achieve that goal. So Van already mentioned our partnership with Major League Hacking. So we definitely share a common goal to empower our communities via technology and education. So just keep in mind that we have these workshops and hackathon every month. So anyone who are interested in learning is welcome to join. So make sure that you follow us on social media because we post invitations each time. And then also for Zendoo SDK, we hosted a live webinar last month on the topic of how to custom build a customized DApp. We are also creating a video series on the same topic as Rob mentioned. So there's 6 episodes in the series. So we already published 2 episodes, and the remaining episodes will be published very, very soon. So as we keep producing all the materials, we have realized that they're not necessarily organized in a way that can be easily found and located. So to solve that problem, we are making a one-stop page for all the resources a developer will need to learn to use our SDK. So these resources include things like webinars, videos, tutorial articles, documentation, and software downloads. So this way, people will not need to they won't need to try to find materials all over the place. So we will add new materials onto the page as we constantly making new helpful tutorials and guides. So therefore, if you are a developer and are interested in using our Zendoo SDK, it is very important to join our early adopter program. So you will be notified very, very, as soon as the new materials become available. So as developers have started using the SDK and building things, we also make sure that we stay connected and engaged with our community developers to get feedback, provide support, and improve our technology. So last month, our community outreach support team, Manon, sat down with 2 of the community developers, Zaxsphere and Ponta. So both of them are HDE users and also used our SDK. So the interview videos are available on our YouTube. If you're interested in hearing from the Horizen community developers and what they have to say about our platform, so I strongly recommend that you check the videos out. Next slide, please. Okay, so most of you already know that we like to keep our community engaged in a fun and rewarding way through competitions and giveaways. So we hosted 2 giveaways in Q3, and we've got 14 lucky winners from 13 different countries. So congratulations to these winners. And if you didn't win or you're new, don't worry, because we have currently we have an active giveaway still ongoing. So you can find it on our community hub. AKA the Zen Faucet, and that there's still time to enter. So make sure that you you go to our faucet and then claim some free Zen, and also make sure that check that if there's any active giveaway. Next slide, please. Okay, so our team had a quite busy quarter in terms of events and interviews. So due to COVID, most of the events were online. So because of that, we were able to make the presentation from most of the events available on our YouTube. So that's the upside. We also received 13 media mentions. Some of them are from big name media outlets such as Forbes and Cointelegraph. If you want to read about them, if you have not, you can go to our online newsroom to read these articles. Next slide, please. Okay, for upcoming events, due to the COVID, again, most in-person events are still postponed. So most of the events are online. We have several podcasts and an online conference in October. We do, though, have one on-location event in December, which is the Paris Blockchain Week Summit in France. So this is a very big event. Provided everything goes well in terms of the COVID situation, we will be there and present. Next slide, please. Okay, moving to the regional updates. So this is when our regional leads give updates and activities in their regional market. So next slide, please. The first one is the China market, and then I'll cover this on behalf of our China community manager, Wang. So Wang had a busy quarter as the public event restriction due to COVID have been lifted more and more in China. The event activities have really picked up. So Wang hosted and attended 4 meetups and conferences, and he also hosted an AMA with our partner NodeEasy's community. Also, the blockchain project Mixing integrated some Horizen quiz in their faucet to encourage their users to learn about Horizen. Users who complete the quiz gets rewarded. Guan has just done a really good job at not only growing the Horizen community in China, but also building and nurturing relationships with different projects and communities in there. So really grateful for that. That's it from me. I will pass it to Manon.
Thanks, Lucy, and hi everyone. So before talking about my slide, I wanted to thank you, I'm Fab, because thanks to you, I really have a nice wall, as everyone can see. So first of all, we have a Telegram group from French-speaking community. The conversations are really good there, so feel free to join. The crypto pants are back in Strasbourg, so that's every first Wednesday of each month. So I will be there just after this live stream. You can join as well. I'm also here to answer in French on the help desk, so don't be afraid to ask support. Our friend Julien from La Ferme du Mineur is doing a treasury hunt every first Saturday at 8 p.m. Paris time zone with some Zen to win. The idea is very cool. You have to guess a mnemonic phrase thanks to some clues. This is really fun, so if you are a French speaker, feel free to join. Also, Julien did a video about the Blockstream game, so if you haven't seen it yet, you should go for it. The video is also translated into English. And last but not the least, Xavier Garot did a nice tutorial and feedback about sidechain nodes and sidechain setup. The tutorial is available in French on his website, but also translated into English on Horizen blog. I also had the chance to interview him about the job he did on HDE and also with Ponta. So thank you, Xavier and Ponta. And thank you for listening. And now I pass it to Vano.
Hello again. So about Eastern European updates, I already said about Whitebit integration during our BD slide, but adding here that Whitebit has also announced during their AMA with Rowan that they are going to add Zen to their smart staking service, which will allow Zen holders to stake Zen and earn interest against it, which I feel will be a good service for our Eastern European community. About previous events, I have attended the Festival of Learning financial event by Real Vision, and it has been a great opportunity to network with their vast community. Then we had a great representation at the Blockchain UA this September with Rob joining online and talking about real-world scalability of blockchain with sidechains, and Roman Oleynikov, who has physically attended the conference, presented our Zendoo extended model white paper. Both presentations are available at our podcast and YouTube channels, so you can listen or watch if you missed them. Towards the end of September, Rowan had an AMA, a video AMA with Whitebit Exchange, which is available at their YouTube channel. And then talking about future events, we have been invited at the Chainpoint 2020 conference in Armenia, but date still needs to be confirmed for that. And with that, I pass it to Angie for the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Vano. So is everyone ready? I'm checking on the questions. So the first one is Horizen Labs going to develop a VPN sidechain in 2021?
Great question. We actually don't have a plan for it, so I can't say yes on that, but it's a cool idea. And probably what would be more important for the Horizen Labs perspective would be to find a notable VPN provider that wants to create a decentralized VPN with us. that would be more in line with what Horizen Labs is scaling up to do. But great suggestion or great question. I'm taking that as a suggestion to find such a VPN partner.
Awesome. The next question is stablecoin in the works?
Not yet, other than conceptually, we love the idea and we're determined to do it. The critical dependency is clearly getting Zendoo to production on mainnet. But that said, we are actually actively looking for what I just said about finding a partner to do a VPN. We also want to find a partner to do stablecoin. This is really the model that we're approaching, is not to do everything ourselves, but to be facilitators and enable others to do that. Now, there are some distinctions between the foundation, Zen Blockchain Foundation, and Horizen Labs. Zen Blockchain Foundation is facilitating overall ecosystem partnerships and growth, but Horizen Labs is facilitating the technology deployments and helping partners actually deploy the SDK. A stablecoin is not currently in one of the partners that we have that we're doing things with that are in the announcement cycle right now. But it is something that we for sure will do. It's absolutely too critical not to.
Awesome. Okay, here's one suggestion from one of the community members, and it says, people care about money, so make a lottery app and a DeFi app ASAP, please.
I want to invite Rolf in here to talk about this because this is something I know he's been advocating for a while.
Oh, I agree with the sentiment of the commenter. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with a sidechain. You look at the advantages of, so say somebody wants to create a lottery app. We're talking like Powerball or other popular type of lottery apps. And those are really only run by state organizations. And if you look at the economics of them, they end up paying back out maybe 70%. The other 30% are essentially another form of tax. It's a tax on the lottery players.
Did you say scam, Rolf?
I did not say scam.
Okay, sorry.
Anything that's involved with the government is never a scam.
Tax, yes, okay. Please continue.
Yeah, it's essentially a tax on the people who play lottery. And they, a lot of people participate. You can see what these prizes are. And so the neat thing about a lottery is it moves the conversation away from a cryptocurrency to a specific dedicated app, right? So if you think about a lottery, it might not be that Powerball is the best example. There are some regulatory hurdles that you would need to go through to do this properly. If you're an organization that wants to do this, there's various countries around the world where you can get a gaming license and do things like that. The big advantage, of course, with cryptocurrency is there's really no there's no geographic limits to money transfer. That's why stablecoins are working so well these days. But if you're going to be doing something like a Powerball within cryptocurrency, it immediately has worldwide reach because anybody can without permission do it and play. Now you'd have to make a very straightforward, simple interface to it. So you would think of this as an app running on an iPhone or an Android or a web interface. And it's basically, you pick 6 numbers or something like that. And then there's a drawing every week. And it gives if the winnings aren't won, that they roll over to the next week. Very classic, this has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, this type of gaming type thing. So I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel in this type of thing. To me, it's obvious that the Zen Blockchain Foundation would not be the creators of a lottery app. I'm not sure it's really something that Horizen Labs would do either, but there's no reason that we can't provide, we can't work to make sure the libraries are there to do that, because these are common types of libraries that are involved for all different side chains. So maybe that's done during a hackathon, but it would take an organization or a person that would want to launch the lottery app, the Powerball app. And just because it's not a state organization that runs it doesn't mean that whoever runs it can't make profits, right? So if you're paying back 90% of the funds that come in, you're already a much better paying lottery app. You have access to international clients. customers, and someone can set this up and run it on a very similar thing to the Lambo Registry app. You have to, of course, figure out how you're going to take all the different inputs, but those can all be calculated up on the blockchain, and then you can have a drawing and a payout. So you need to make sure you have a pretty good random number generator in it, and you do the payout once a week, and then you make sure that you have something that analyzes the blockchain and provides a report and shows where all the funds came in and where they all went out, and shows that it really does pay out. And whoever creates the app can, of course, work their funding in, because that's part of the overall model of sidechains, is the people that create the application can have funding. And then the next part is that there'd be incentive for stakers and block forge operators to keep this thing up and running in a distributed manner. So to me, everything that we developed in sidechains points to being a lottery, like a Powerball, as being a perfect type of application for someone to create and run. It's not a new idea within programming or other space. And sometimes it just takes a single app like that to really make something take off. So there might be better ideas out there. There might be other ideas out there, but I really like the idea of a lottery.
Rolf, I really like your t-shirt, by the way. That's vintage. If anyone watching recognizes it, it was actually the first t-shirt we ever made with Zencash.
It's vintage. I don't wear it very often because I don't want to wear it out.
Same here.
Awesome. So a couple of more questions. One is, what are you looking forward to the most on what the sidechains can do?
It's a really good question. Rolf, do you want to take a stab at it? My slow mind catches up.
So you look at what some of the advantages are. First of all, you can create a dedicated blockchain and then interface to it, right? That's the distributed app type of thing. And we see from DeFi has been very exciting in the last few months. It's essentially an accelerated form of gambling, is the way I see it. But it also has hints of a new way of approaching finance. But there's so many advantages to using a blockchain for all sorts of different things, not just for transfer of value. It's the immutability of the blockchain. It's being able to have multiple people have inputs to it, and being able to have the transparency in the recording of it. And so instead of having to create and launch and operate an entire blockchain, really what we've done with the sidechains is architected the economics of it, so that the people that create the applications, the people that run it, and the people that use it all have economic incentives to use it, with Zen being the coin of the realm for people to be able to do all these things on the blockchain. So you say, where do these different combinations come in of where you want transparency, where you want ease of use, where you want many different people coming in? And some of these are government services that are provided, and some of them are private services that are provided that would benefit from having blockchain conversion. So, a voting application might be something, and it doesn't have to be, national voting. There's a lot of different people that vote for decisions and want to be able to have the benefits that there's a secure ballot, and they want to see that their vote counted. So that's the big thing. If I vote, I want to make sure that nobody knows what I voted, and I want to be able to check the blockchain and make sure my vote was counted, and that all the votes that were put in were counted. And that could be, at high school for a class president. It could be for a neighborhood community, for a homeowners association. So there might be somebody that create a voting application. There's all sorts of other type of business applications. One that we ran across recently was a different type of registries, and that's why I like the Lambo Registry as such a great starting point for doing things. There's a lot of registries of information out there, especially ones that are run by governments. That maybe you want to have an alternate way to actually do it. So that's why I'm really glad that we're working so hard to sign up independent software developers and assist them in developing applications and providing frameworks to be able to provide these solutions. Because there's no way that we're going to be able to, as Horizen and Horizen Labs, be able to find all these different people and applications out there. I do.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. I didn't
No, there was just one other. There are some things that we can do to enable it, though. I mean, what if I wanted to put up, I don't know, $500 for someone to develop a sidechain app? It'd be great if there was like a central place where people that have bought Zen and invested in Zen and believe in Zen could be able to maybe contribute some Zen to kind of like their own, like a community HDE. So, I want a sidechain for this, and I'm willing to pay this much for a developer to do it. That's the type of enabling things that Horizen can do. Anyway, I interrupted you, Rob.
No. So I do have my vote. I finally thought of based on what you were saying is the thing that I'm most excited about is our Treasury DAO. So I want to democratize the Treasury pool because Trollino actually submitted a ZenEP, our first legit ZenEP. He submitted with a proposal to change the block subsidy, basically. So change the percentage allocations to, different people get different amounts, reduce minor rewards and so forth. But my point is, I don't want to make those kinds of decisions because these are big macro decisions that impact other stakeholders in the ecosystem who have invested time, resources under certain expectations. And I don't like the idea of unilateral decisions when we're so close to rolling out the technology to have a voting system, like Rolf was mentioning, where the community can come together and directly have a say in how we do things like, block subsidy allocations. So anyway, that was my point is I can't wait for the community to actually have direct democracy here, because there's still some really big decisions for us to make at the macro level that I think require that community buy-in. And it's one thing for us to throw out a survey or for us to say, hey, we know what's best. I don't want to do that for the big things like that, unless we're actually absolutely in a corner and we have to. But as of now, we're in a pretty good place where the technology is getting close. And I want the democracy. I want people to weigh in a provably fair way, not just people that maybe the loudest or most opinionated come in and say, maybe that's me, loudest and most opinionated. I don't want to dominate that conversation. I want to know we actually have real buy-in from the cross section of the community, and we're not going to have that until we have a provably fair, privacy-preserving voting system, like Rolf mentioned. I did see a question on how much I bench press. You guys are so 2010s, it's 2020s now, and I'm on to pull-ups, so completely different. I still can't do as many pull-ups as Rolf, but I'm actually catching up.
Yeah, I wanted to skip that one, but okay, so the last question is, are you any worried in the event where the price could drop so much after halving that we will not have the funds to deliver?
Obviously, yeah, no, this is a big thing. And this is why I took the time to mention the block halving during the presentation. We have a slide on it. It's a really big deal. Just truth be told, we have an operating budget based on the price of Zen times the amount of Zen that comes into the treasury every month. And the amount of Zen coming into the treasury is about to be cut in half, roughly around December 1st. That's going to have an impact if the price of Zen, if the price of Zen doesn't double from here, like it was a month ago, if it doesn't get back up to where it was a month ago, we have to just face the reality. We have a budget and we can operate up to that budget. Now, budgets in the past have been sticky with us, as in we program things to do and we're executing on something. So we typically don't like to kill things that we're in the middle of executing on. But I think what we've learned over the years is we have to be less sticky with the budgets and we have to react quicker. That's what we've been doing in the last crisis. We did that. We reacted quicker than we were in the crisis before that, which is quicker than we were in the crisis before that. So we're learning as we go. And my sentiment now is I want to be even quicker. I don't want to be sticky and operate in the red for at all, period. I hate operating in the red. We've done it in the past. And we're not going to do that. So if the price of Zen gets cut in half and really like our economic capacity to operate gets cut in half, we have to have the amount of things that we're doing. And you can see in this quarterly action, we have a very succinct summary of what we've been doing in just the last quarter. And if you can follow the trail over time, what we've been doing every quarter that we present to you guys, it's an enormous volume of work. And we have multiple organizations operating within this ecosystem. From the foundation's perspective, the foundation has a fixed budget in Zen, and we're going to be operating according to that fixed budget. We have other organizations like Horizen Labs that has its own budget, its own capital, and it will continue executing with respect to its priorities and what it thinks it wants to do within its capacity. But from the foundation's perspective, and that's this call right here, we're going to be operating within a budget. So we'll see what happens. We're preparing for it. So we're going to be handling this responsibly. We have a lot of experience in dealing with volatility, so we're going to be applying that experience here.
Great. Those were the top three, the top questions. Any final comments, Rob or Rolf, for we to close up here?
I'm going to beef up my pull-ups after this, so you're Rolf. I'm going to catch up.
I'm sure you can. I mean,
I'm lighter than you are, though, so I have less muscle holding me down. So,
awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching our quarterly live stream, and we hope to see you all very, very soon. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.